It's lights out, everybody, and welcome back to the Low Downforce podcast, the for-friend Formula One podcast, and congratulations, you have survived the Formula One summer break. We are finally back. It's felt like forever. We're still missing Matt and J9, both out of town right now. They will be back soon, though. Don't worry. I know they're itching to get back to Formula One, just like we are. Maybe, I know we've only done this podcast for 2 years, but I feel like last year we had all of the chaos of the driver lineups in summer break. And it wasn't until literally this morning that we kind of got the only real piece of summer F1 news. And it happens, we're already into race week. So it's like we didn't even get much Formula One stuff. We'll get into that in a second. But Josh, you feel rested? You feel recharged? You happy that Formula One is back?
We're back. I thought the offseason or the summer break was going to be much more exciting in terms of rumors and drama. There was a little bit, I guess that was before summer break even started, about Max and Mercedes rumors. That absolutely did not happen. I thought that was going to happen over summer break. And Cadillac's all we got. So I'm ready to be back and let's get some news cycles.
Yeah, let's get right into it. Obviously, we are coming up on the Formula One Heineken Dutch Grand Prix, but as Josh just teased, before we get there, doesn't affect this weekend, but it absolutely affects next year. As we've talked about before, Cadillac is joining Formula One as the 11th team, as the proper American team, if you will. Haas, American owned, operates right near Ferrari in Italy. So proper American team. I guess Cadillac still has offices in the UK and stuff like that. But they just announced their driver lineup, and they're going with the veteran duo of Valtteri Bottas and Checo Perez. So welcome back, two legends, two race winners. They will be automatically the third most experienced team in Formula One next year in terms of Grand Prix competed in. So what do you think of it? Are you happy? I mean, we had so many names being tossed around, but here we are finally.
Yeah, I think this was most expected all along. I think it would have been cool to see like a young up-and-comer go in, but for a new team with new regulations, I think getting a solid foundation and two very experienced drivers is good. Historically, they've both been number two drivers. It is kind of cool that one was the number two to Lewis Hamilton and one was the number two to Max Verstappen most recently in both their jobs. So, I guess Valtteri was at Sauber for a while, but yeah, two number two drivers, but like Valtteri is super likable. Checo, I think at Red Bull wasn't super likable, but outside of that, he's been super likable.
Ask his fan base, because they are some of the most avid in Formula One. It is funny. I think it's a good talk about the two number two drivers. There's a lot of jokes going around on the internet that it's just like, no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead, because neither of them know how to take charge. But I will say this is the correct choice from Cadillac. The team itself is the rookie. They don't need more rookies in the mix. Apparently in Checo Perez's interview, he was basically like, look at how all the other Red Bull number two drivers are doing. I still got it. It wasn't my fault. We will certainly see, but this is smart because you're building a team in new regulations. Two veteran guys, two guys who put the team first especially. This is exactly what you need when you're joining Formula One, when you need to get everything up to speed. We've talked about, especially in Red Bull, things with like the Liam Lawson switch for Yuki Tsunoda at the beginning of the year is you want as much car feedback as you can get. You want as much factory feedback as you can get. And we're talking about Checo being at Red Bull, like you said, Valtteri Bottas being in the heyday of Mercedes. They've seen what championship teams look like. They know how to get it done. There's one small part of me that's a little bummed that it's two names we've heard before, we've seen before, because there were rumors, and I'm not saying like Mick Schumacher, although he was one of the big rumored ones because we've seen him in Formula One before, but there were some talks of Colton Herta from IndyCar, Alex Palou from IndyCar, a couple new names, and we had talked about before, 11th team, 2 new spots. There's certainly more than the current 20 drivers deserving of a chance. Both of them, both Checo Perez and Valtteri Bottas, are allegedly signed on multi-year deals, so it might be a little bit longer before we see the first proper cycle where 11 teams are at play, drivers are moving around. There's also a couple years for Cadillac to establish, are they good? Do drivers want to go there? But we will have to wait for that part of it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head of they want to establish car feedback and stuff like that. You don't want a driver having to learn how to drive an F1 while you're trying to also learn how to run a team. And Checo and Bottas, like you said, members of championship winning teams, both Mercedes and Red Bull at their peaks were probably like two of the most operationally efficient teams ever. And so if Cadillac can take some of that experience and apply that to this new rebranded team, I guess new team, not even rebranded. That's Audi is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, new team. If they can operate like that, I mean, they're going to be on the path to being a contender.
We've talked about all year that Lewis has been trying to bring bits of Mercedes to Ferrari. Lewis knows how to win. Ferrari, it's been a minute. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you would expect Valtteri to give the same thing. And I'm no financial advisor. Maybe you've missed the window because they've gotten announced. But I think just signing Checo Perez, I imagine Cadillac popularity in Mexico is skyrocketing. Yeah. I think there was one report last year when there was all the drama of is Checo saying, is he leaving? And it was like just on Checo hats alone, it was like $15 million of revenue. Like Checo, love him, hate him, respect him, all of that. He was the problem. Red Bull was the problem. Checo has a massive following in Formula One. I don't think this is understated enough or stated enough. I think it's understated because that's also what you need Formula One. You need a reason for people to cheer. You need a reason to gain support because you get sponsors that way. You get momentum that way. You attract better drivers that way. So definitely the right call from Cadillac. There have also been some jokes that now it's going to be Christian Horner as their team principal and then Checo's stuck again. But I don't think there's any merit currently to those debates. So we will just have to wait and see. But 2026 is right around the corner. We only have 10 race weekends left, Josh. And that brings us to the Formula One Heineken Dutch Grand Prix Circuit Zandvoort, just outside of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, right on the Atlantic Ocean for its second to last maybe ever edition. It is leaving the calendar after next year. But you are our resident Matt for today. You are Matt's track facts locked and loaded. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, leaving the calendar after next year would be unfortunate, but the track has been gone for a long time before because the first Dutch Grand Prix was in 1952 all the way up until 1985, and then it was gone until 2021. Max Verstappen was probably a part of that if I had to guess, but after 3 straight wins from Verstappen, we had a win. Well, I guess you'll get into that from Lando last year. But Zandvoort is a cool track, despite it maybe losing its place on the calendar. It is 4.259 kilometers, 72 laps. Lewis owns a track record from 2021 with a 111.097. We'll see if McLaren can break that because their car has been demolishing track records this entire season.
I feel like we've seen more like records broken in qualifying because of like overall, but in the race we haven't seen as many new race lap records.
That is true. And part of that might be because of the downforce and tire degradation, and this track is high for both of those. So teams will have to manage their tires. I saw one thing that they're raising the speed limit in the pit lane to try and incentivize teams to do a 2-stopper, so you lose less time in the pit lane. From I think 60 kilometers an hour to maybe 80. That's off the top of my head, so someone would fact check me. I don't know. 2 DRS zones. The coolest part about this track, though, I think, is the banked corners. In turn 3, and I wrote 18, but there's not even 18 turns on this circuit, so I don't know what I was writing, but it's 14. And it's banked at 19 degrees and 18 degrees, respectively. And if you watch, like I was just watching Lando's quali lap from last year with the gyro cam, and the whole thing tilts. It's crazy. But it is difficult to overtake here, which is part of the reason I would assume it's leaving the F1 calendar because it's such high downforce, similar-ish to Monaco in that sense. And the road's just not wide enough to overtake, even though it's not super narrow like a street circuit. And it's on the coast of the Netherlands, so weather changes fast. I saw earlier it was projected rain, but it could be anything because it's on the coast and anything can happen.
I would say, speaking of changing weather, I know you mentioned it. I'll talk a little bit about last year's race, but even more notably was the 2023 edition of the Dutch Grand Prix. We're doing a little bit of a race rewind back 2 years before we started recording the podcast even. We had the most overtakes in a Formula One race ever. 2 years ago, we had 186 overtakes, 63 of them on lap 3 alone. Because, as you mentioned, there were changing conditions. It was dry to start, and the rain came down on lap 2. Chaos ensued. It was all over the place. Max Verstappen won that edition. Since its return in 2021, as you mentioned, Josh, Max has won every single edition except for last year. Lando won by a comfortable 22 seconds after taking pole position, but Max finished second in that edition. So hometown hero, going to do hometown things. Expect to see him outperform the car again. But we also had in 2023, one of the big talking points was Daniel Ricciardo crashing in practice that year, breaking his hand. He winds up having to miss a bunch of races, even though he had just come back into Formula One, which led to the debut of Liam Lawson, who is now also still on the grid. So certainly been some important moments in this race in the last couple of years, and I'm peeking at the forecast on my other screen, and there is chance of rain in FP1, FP3, but even more importantly, there's a currently 93% chance of rain during qualifying, which might spice things up incredibly. But another thing that might spice it up as well, looking to this year's edition, is Pirelli. Happy 500th Grand Prix, by the way. They have decided to take a little risk. They have gone one step softer this year than they did last year. So we are going the C2, the C3, and the C4s this year. Hopefully that means there's a little more excitement on track. We know we've got the McLaren battle most of the time, but who knows, changing weather, different strategies, we could get chaos like we did at the Hungarian Grand Prix last race, all the way back before summer break. God, that feels like ages ago.
It was.
Which means we also need a quick reminder of how the Predictors Championship is going, Josh. I feel like I haven't made a prediction. I can tell you now my hot take when we get to it clearly shows the rust that has developed over the last 3 weeks. So
yeah,
how are we looking going into the back half, if you will, of the season?
The Hungarian Grand Prix was the worst Grand Prix, prediction-wise, of anyone, because we collectively, between the four of us, only got 1 point. So that's a struggle. Hopefully we can improve the back half. But I am still in the lead, but my lead is shrinking. I have 29 points. Matt is narrowly behind me with 24. J9 narrowly behind him with 22. And you're lagging back with 17. But we've got a little less than half the season to go.
Although I did just say my hot take is a mess, so maybe I'm tanking for the first overall pick next year.
I feel like it's still kind of anyone's game. Nobody's run away with it like McLaren has in the real drivers, or both the drivers and constructors, I guess. We don't know which driver, but
at least we have that. At least we have the Drivers' Championship. But hey, you listeners, you have the Predictors Championship as well, so double the fun. We might as well get right into it. We are schmoovin'. Josh has Matt's picks. I have J9's picks, so don't worry. Even though there's only two of us, we still have all picks accounted for. And as is custom, as we do, the first prediction that A, we're going to make, and B, we're going to see if it comes true after this long break is, of course, pole position. Josh, you kick us off. Who do you have taking pole after the summer break?
Yeah, we had that shock pole position from Charles Leclerc in the Hungarian Grand Prix, but I don't think there's any chance of a shock here. Oscar Piastri, it's between Oscar and Lando. I've gone Oscar. Matt has also gone Oscar.
Maybe I divided it up well, because J9 and I have gone the opposite McLaren. We have gone with Lando Norris. I don't know what her thinking was, but I know my thinking, as I mentioned, the 93% chance of rain. I feel like Lando is one of the current wet weather specialists on the grid, but there's also total room for chaos, so we will just have to see. But maybe less chaos on Sunday. Right now it's saying no rain, but hey, you never know. You can literally, from some of the seats, see the Atlantic Ocean. So that is how coastal that this track is, how quickly things can change. But we jump ahead to third place, where we finally have some differing thoughts. J9 has gone with Max Verstappen. She has the hometown hero on the podium, but in the bottom spot. Whereas I have gone for Oscar Piastri, which might be a surprise.
That is a surprise.
Like we've had 4 1-2s in a row for McLaren, and I think that can't go on forever. That can't be an infinite streak. Maybe. I'll certainly be happy as a McLaren fan, but maybe there will be a little craziness this weekend.
Well, Matt and I have both predicted McLaren 1-2, so different drivers though. But I have gone with Charles Leclerc. Hopefully, I'm kind of just doing the Ferrari hope strategy for the second half of the year of just try to not be miserable, but probably be miserable. And Matt has also gone Verstappen, similar to J9 at his home race.
It seems though J9 wants to share in your misery potentially because she has gone Charles Leclerc all the way up in P2, which
that would be awesome.
That's a Ferrari win, basically. A P2.
I would take it.
Absolutely. I have gone for Max Verstappen. So I think that you can't count out the hometown hero, especially when there's nothing to lose at this point. Look for Max to be an absolute madman. If there's one win he would want this year, same with Lando getting the British Grand Prix for the first time. Look for him to just go balls to the wall, try and bring it home in front of the fans.
Actually think there is something to lose here, because if Max crashes the car and somehow messes up development for 26 at Red Bull, which, like, who knows how their development's going already? Because I feel like Red Bull is at a point where they can just happily move on, whereas like McLaren still has to like fight with each other. But like Red Bull can just kind of throw in the towel this season. I don't know. Anyways, we're going P2. I have gone for Oscar Piastri, and like I said, Matt has it flipped from me. He has gone Lando Norris in P2.
Well, that means P1. You already hinted at the McLaren 1-2s, so why don't you fill out your half of the predictions?
Well, I have Norris. Matt has Piastri, and
J9 has Piastri, and I have Norris. So
okay.
4 of us are locking in McLaren all across the board, but we are split 2-2 as we were for pole position. So we will certainly see. But I was about to go into my hot take, but we have one more pick first. It is, of course, our P10, our final point prediction. Some drivers will wish they were still on break. Other drivers are going to be happy that they can find new form after the break, but it all depends on who you pick. J9 and I actually match. We both went with Carlos Sainz. Williams was probably the team that most desperately wanted to get to the break, wanted to get some fresh air, breathe, relax, not think about the DNFs, the poor form as of late, but I think that'll allow them to recharge and come back stronger. Look for Carlos to round out the points.
I like Carlos. I didn't go with him. He's kind of struggled all year. I hope he catches on, but I feel like that'll be a next year thing for him. I have gone Liam Lawson. I feel like he's kind of started to pick it up the last few races after a slow start, both at Red Bull and then switching to RB. But I feel like he's kind of starting to settle in with the RB.
And just to jump in real quick, just a quick note. Now that we are in Zandvoort, I mentioned Daniel Ricciardo breaking his hand a couple years ago. We are now at the point where Liam Lawson has raced every track on the grid. Even though not in one full season, there are no rookie tracks, if you will, for Liam Lawson. Everything from here on out, he has experience in F1. So maybe you're onto something, Josh. Maybe he knows what to do around Zandvoort.
Yeah, and the other driver who swapped with him, Yuki Tsunoda, that's who Matt picked in 10th. So maybe he's kind of struggled in the Red Bull because we know that car is hard to drive, especially the second seat. So maybe he's catching on and learning how to
he
get
probably
some points.
wanted the summer break as much as anyone.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine. But not us. We're happy to be back, and that's why we are coming up hot and spicy to our spicy hot takes. You know it. You love it. 3 times the points. 3 times or sometimes even more the chaos. I mentioned mine's going to be nuts, maybe too much, so we're going to save mine for a little bit. So I'll kick it right back to you, Josh. What did you go for?
I'm going on the hopeful side of this because with both Matt and J9's predictions, they involve DNFs. Mine involves the lack of DNFs. I'm saying 1 or fewer DNF in this race, and you may say that's not too hot. But the number Oh, see, interesting. The number of I'm going to change it. The number of classified finishers, I'm saying one or fewer do not classify. Does that work?
What's the stat you're looking at that justifies
I was looking at the Vegas odds to try and see like where stuff is, and under 18.5 drivers finishing, so at least 2 cars not being classified, is minus 275. It's a huge favorite. So to be over that number is plus 200. So it's I don't know the
big math guy over here.
Yeah, there's like a 30% chance of it happening according to this.
All right.
Vegas is always right.
If Vegas is willing to lose money, I'll be willing to lose money. We will play with that for sure. And you have Matt's prediction as well.
Yeah, and he says 2 of the top 7 on the grid, DNF. I don't know if that means. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that means there's an incident that come together or something like that.
That's probably the easiest way to achieve it. Is just 2 of the front runners crash out,
or you have some weird reliability issues.
And
who knows?
J9 might have the same thought because she, in her exact words, and this is so J9, so she's barely even missed because it's like she's right here. Lando gets into it with somebody and DNFs, which. I feel like that is stock J9 prediction right there. Absolutely love it. I don't love that it's Lando.
I am curious. Yeah. I am curious. The gets into it. Like, does he have to hit somebody else? Or like if he's like in a fight and then crashes himself?
This has to be like a DNF because of like contact or forced off the road. Like, so I guess there doesn't technically have to be contact. I guess we get to be the judges of that.
Yeah, because if there's some wheel-to-wheel battle and
I don't like that it's Lando that she picked, but it would certainly help her prediction. It would help Matt's prediction as well. It would not help yours though, so maybe that's what we need. You're sitting at the top. I've gone what I feel like is the spiciest of everybody. We've talked about the high chance of rain during qualifying, so I have gone with 1 McLaren, 1 Ferrari, and 1 Mercedes will not make it into Q3. And that is why I have Oscar in P3, because I think he's going to make a mistake in the rain. He is going to spend the race catching up. He's going to get most of the way there, but not quite all the way.
One of each?
One of each, because in fairness, we've seen Kimi Antonelli struggle in qualifying. We've seen Lewis Hamilton struggle in qualifying. And so if I just say, a Mercedes, we've seen that a couple times. A Ferrari, we've seen that a couple times. We haven't really seen that with McLaren outside of Lando crashing during Jeddah. But you've talked about Vegas odds. Don't expect everybody to finish the race because it's an unusual track, because of the camber. If it's wet, you definitely get spin outs. You definitely get some unusual laps in. And so I'm hoping for the chaos. I'm looking for the chaos. It would certainly change a lot of narratives, because if I were to be right, if it was Lando P1, Oscar P3, for the first time since China or Japan, maybe a little bit after, Lando will be leading the championship again. That is how close they are. That would be a 10-point swing, and they are only separated by 9 points. Of course, Oscar Piastri leading the championship right now. Josh, of course, in equal royalty leading the Predictors Championship, but
I'm not leading by that much.
Can he hang on to it? We will certainly see. If you stick around with us for the rest of the season, you will certainly be able to tell as well. But Zandvoort, Netherlands, it's another European race. So you waited all this time just to wake up at 9 a.m. on Saturday for qualifying, 9 a.m. on Sunday for the race as well. Of course, if you're watching in the U.S., those are Eastern times. And as well, check out the race, of course, on ESPN. But when you're done with all that, come back next week to listen to us break down the race that was the Dutch Grand Prix this year. Maybe it was crazy. Maybe we set the record for overtakes again. Maybe we see McLaren's battle it out at front, far away from anybody else. But you will just have to wait and find out. But until then, everybody, stay speedy. Goodbye.